are going to take a few minutes to speak to a guy that, well, everybody knows what a huge fan I am of both him and his guitar playing, and of course the band that he was a huge part of in predominantly the 70s and beyond at some points. And that band, of course, is UFO. So, and he is now celebrating the music he made as a guitar player and co-writer of in UFO, the 70s stuff for the most part, with the new album out called My Years with UFO. Joining me now on the show, welcoming him back, is the one and only Michael Schenker. Michael, how are you, buddy?
Yeah, I'm good, Eddie. How are you?
I'm good. Are you here in the U.S. now?
Yeah, I'm in Ohio at the moment.
Are you touring or are you just visiting?
I'm just visiting.
Oh, okay. Well, listen, I am super excited to talk to you about this record because you know how I feel about you and UFO and the music of UFO. I guess starting off, tell me why you decided to do this. Why did you want to revisit these songs and re-record them?
Yeah, but obviously because it's 50 years, and that's the reason. I didn't do much UFO stuff in all these years since then, and so it's 50 years, and I guess it's also, celebrating. Basically, it's celebrating the songs I wrote for UFO in that period of time between 1972 and 1978. Strangers in the Night came out, which was the best of UFO, and basically those were most of the songs I wrote on that album, which was, basically the best of UFO. And so when I also, in the past, I've noticed that remasters were coming out without any information, no information of who was the songwriter. It was just UFO and the song. And so people are whistling the song. I don't even know where it comes from. It's a long time, 50 years. And so I want to use, I thought it would be a great idea to let people know, like newcomers especially, where those songs are coming from. Give some information, some additional information. I think a lot of information got lost over the years. I mean, I was born 55, 50 years before I was born. I have no clue what happened then. So it is a long time. And also, so basically that's the idea. And then on top of that, I wanted to celebrate this with musicians and singers, from like bands that were influenced or inspired by UFO and myself, that made it big. And there are lots of them: Guns N' Roses, Europe, even Dee Snider, etc., etc. And so I got so much fun out of this. It's so amazing because I'm working with my co-producer, Michael Foss, and he does, all the technical work. I just give ideas and inspire, and so and play the guitar, of course, and so when as we were in the studio, as we went, the first step, obviously, we never know what we're doing before we start, but I have a rough idea, and so putting down my guitars for the songs I had chosen to celebrate, and as we did that, everything else came about. You were actually one, I get this question a lot. How did I connect with all these guys? And of course, you were there, Eddie, at the Monsters of Rock, and Stephen Kersey was there, and he came towards me with open arms, saying, "Michael, we love you." And so, and we hugged each other, and so of course I helped Rat in the days when they had Round and Round, and of course I loved that song anyway. It was fantastic. Became fans with Warren DeMartini, who was a fan. And so I learned a lot about that through Warren, and so I helped them out when Crosby died, and so anyway, I hadn't seen Stephen Percy for many years, and there he was. Wow. Okay. Thank you, Stephen. It was just a pleasure to see him so happy and so, energetic. I couldn't believe it, and so. And it was just one of an example of how these things came about. Like I was sitting next to, I was at an award in Wales, and Dee Snider, he walked into the door and he sat down next to me, and was telling me while the music was playing really loud, how much of a UFO fan he was, and so I took that opportunity to ask him. And I tell you, when I heard A Natural Thing with him singing, I was blown away. I did not know what great voice he has, So I learned so much by not listening. I'm not listening to music for 50 years, which is another 50 years anniversary. And of course, Gibson, 50 years anniversary. Everything becomes 50 years anniversary. But Dee Snider, hearing him singing was absolutely amazing. And there was so much amazing stuff that because the way what Michael Voss and I work, sometimes I don't really get to hear much until he is ready to ask me to approve it. And then when I have to approve it, I go like, wow. And with this record, it was unbelievable, one after another. It was so much fun.
Well,
there?
Yeah, no, I'm listening to it all. No, this is great stuff. You're right. There's a few things there that you said that you're 100% right on. UFO is a band that, as time goes on, I think more and more people discover them. I've been talking about my love of the band for decades, and every day I hear from people who will tell me, oh my gosh, I just discovered this band because I hear you talking about them or playing them all the time. How did I miss them back in the day? And then, of course, you've got fans that have been there forever, like myself. And you're right. There are a lot of UFO reissues that have come out. I just found out there's going to be another one. I don't know if you even know this, but another one for the anniversary of Obsession. And it's going to have a live concert that you're on. And this is all label reissue stuff that's coming out. So, there is a lot coming out. There's a lot of other artists who have talked about their love of UFO. You remember, of course, when you were on my old TV show, Kirk Hammett from Metallica came and jammed with you because he was such a big fan. So the list is endless of people who love and were influenced by UFO. So I think it's great that you've embraced this and done these new versions of these songs. You touched on some of the guests on the record. The big ones that you didn't mention are Slash is on one track, and the biggest is Axl Rose singing Love to Love. Now, Michael, Love to Love, for me and many others, is absolutely sacred. That's like the greatest song. In the time that you've done this, I got a call from I got a text from Lita Ford this morning saying, what did you think of Axl doing Love to Love? Miles Kennedy called me and said, what did you think of Axl doing Love to Love? Love to Love is like the ultimate song for most of us. So tell me how Axl, who doesn't do a lot of things like this, how did he end up recording this with you?
Yeah, again, it's just another funny story. There's so many, everything happened in so many different ways. And there are so many great artists and singers on this album. That's why I didn't even get to Axl, it's just another story. It's like Slash came to the studio in Frankfurt. I guess they were touring Germany at the time. And so Slash came down, and the first thing he said, he came to me, hugged me, and said, "Hey, Michael, I told Axl, that I was going to do this here today with you." And he said, "Oh, well, I want to sing something too." I said, "That's fantastic. Please ask him what he wants to sing." And so that's how it came about. And so Axl actually, he decided to sing Only You Can Rock Me, Too Hot to Handle, and Love to Love. And he recorded all three songs. He sang all three songs. I got all three songs to listen to approve, and they all sounded great. But for some reason, it was there was a message that Axl did not. Oh, by the way, and also that there was a message that. I always loved Michael as a guitar player. So I never knew that either. I mean, I knew that I was Slash's. Slash was a fan of mine, but I never knew that Axl was. But anyway, so Axl actually sang three songs, but he did not like Too Hot to Handle and Only You Can Rock Me. His performance, I guess, because they were on the tour. They had, only that space and limited time to get this done. And so he decided to only focus on Love to Love. And okay, let's do that. And so quite a long wait. Eventually, we got the go-ahead, Axl approves the latest version, and it's ready for release. Yeah, and that was it.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very rare that he does anything like that. So that is a really, really big testament to what what a fan he is. And I'll tell you, I mean, I know Slash and I are friends, and we talk, and I know that Slash is a huge UFO fan, and you were a huge influence on him. I'll tell you a funny story. Years ago, like 20 years ago, when Slash was not sober. He's sober now, but he was not sober at the time. And I had him in my radio studio, and they had just put out a special edition on CD of Strangers in the Night, and I had it sitting on the stack of my CDs as we were on the air. So the end of the interview comes, and he says goodbye to me, and he gives me a hug, and I turn and I look on my desk, and my Strangers in the Night is not there anymore. And I felt something in his jacket, and I said, "Hey, where's my Strangers in the Night that was sitting right there?" And he goes, "Oh." And I go, and I touch his jacket, and he stole it from me. and I said, "What are you doing?" I said, "You're in Guns N' Roses. You have millions of dollars. You have to steal my Strangers in the Night?" And he goes into his wallet, and he gives me like $20. He goes, "I just can't go to the record store. Can you just buy yourself another one?" And I said, "No," and I took it back from him. And that's how I found out he was such a big UFO fan. And when I talk to people like him and Kirk from Metallica, and we inevitably end up spending all the time talking about our love of UFO and all this great music that you made. So I was not surprised when I saw Slash turn up on the record. What was that like for you, Michael? Because it makes sense for singers to guest on these songs, because obviously you're not a singer. But to have other guitar players, that had to be interesting for you. And some of the other guitar players you share these songs with are people like John Norum from Europe, and you also have Joel Hoekstra, who's played with Whitesnake, and others on here. And then, of course, Slash. How did you? Adrian Vandenberg's on here as well. For you, I mean, everybody on a Michael Schenker record wants to hear Michael Schenker play guitar. So what was it like for you to bring in other guest guitar players and split the guitar on those songs?
Oh, fantastic. Eddie, I have always done that. Ever since I joined UFO, there was Paul Chapman came in, Sid something, I can't remember his second name. We were looking for different guitarists or something else. That's how we ended up finding Paul. There was Danny Paranor, just a keyboard player, and then we found that great, unique thing that Paul Raymond was doing guitar and keyboards. And so I have always been the person saying, I need something in the background because I want to paint my lead guitar onto a screen, because if I don't have a screen, you won't understand what I'm painting. And that was really always the reason. And But anyway, so I was always. I mean, I have in my own band, my Schenker group. I have Steve Mann. You know, I give him a couple of songs to play lead guitar, and so I have no problems with that. In fact, I love it to have contrast. But of course, with this album, it was very important to have the guys that I was aware of eventually, that are fans and made it big, that to share, you know, their version of what they thought to play for those different songs, Natural Things, Lights Out, and etc., etc. It was so much fun. I tell you, the whole thing was so much fun to hear eventually something that Michael Voss thought was worthwhile putting forward to me and asked me for approval. And man, I mean, vocals and guitar playing and bass playing, Roger Glover's bass playing. I mean, have you heard that? Only You Can Walk Me. Roger Glover, and I have known him for so many, of course, since 1980. He produced my first album, Michael Schenker Group. But I was, you know, already influenced by that, you know, Deep Purple when I was 14 years old. And I never focused on the bass playing, of course. It was actually the vocals, you know, this high chime in time that got my attention. I went like, wow, what is this? And then Ritchie and all of that I discovered later. But it was just... what was the point? I kind of lost the. I'm going too far, too far away.
Just working with other guitar players on these songs you were talking.
Yeah. And so you know, it's just like very important part of this album to have guitarists, you know, that were influenced by me, making it big. And me actually not listening that much, or actually not to music at all. Those were the particular ones I was choosing because, you know, I knew maybe a little bit. Actually, it goes all over the place, to be honest. There are no structures. I mean, when I was actually Jeff Scott Soto, he kind of popped up out of nowhere because I guess I remembered him showing up at a high voltage London concert. He was on stage with my brother Rudolph. Michael Voss was the lead vocalist. There was Herman Rebel on bass. Elliot Rubinson was on bass. I'm sorry, and it was Herman Rebel on drums. And so we had this lineup there, and Jeff Scott Soto, he was up there too, and he was singing, and he always wanted to do something with me ever since. And then when we were in a situation of what about Jeff Scott Soto? We got in touch with him, and because of him, we found Joe Hackstra. But Joe Hackstra also, he showed up because we were looking for a singer. There was a guy from, where is it from? I don't know. A guy, he was singing for him because I actually saw Joe Hackstra for the first time on YouTube because of something I was looking for. But I actually, Joe Hackstra introduced himself to me in a boutique in Los Angeles while I was there looking for stage clothes, and he came in and said, "Hey, hi, Michael, how are you doing? I'm on my way to Whitesnake." So it's just a funny little world, and that's how I first heard his name, and then I heard his name again through Jeff Scott Soto, and you know, in between the YouTube and looking for this particular singer, which there was also an amazing drummer on there from Australia. So whenever I didn't know something, like Michael Voss would say, hey, what do you think about the singer from Croatia? I said, I don't know. What? Show me something. And then he would look on YouTube, and I would hear it and say, wow, that sounds great. But then I would also notice other people that were also great, and that was one of them was Joe Extra. And but anyway, when he ended up playing to A Natural Thing, I went like, this is so funny. This is so. I mean, I felt really happy because he was playing guitar like a saxophone. I didn't know people were able to do this. So I was so happy to have, the first shock was Dee Snider, A Natural Thing, and the next one was Joe Extra playing a guitar like a saxophone. I was like amazed by it. I went, this is so much fun, and then when I heard Joey Tempest singing Only You Can Rock Me, man, I was so happy. And then, of course, Roger Glover as a bass player, that was the key. That was what I was talking about. The bass playing of Roger Glover after all these years. I never knew he can play such a bass. That is unbelievable. I mean, he played the bass so beautifully melodic. I could not believe it. And the age he is now. He did this. I think it's already 77 or something like that. It's so perfectly played. It's unbelievable. And
he never stopped playing. I mean, Purple is still touring. He just never stopped.
Yeah, because he is it. He is what he's doing. That is him.
Yeah. And you've got other people on here, too. You've got Biff from Saxon doing This Kids. You've got Jolyn Turner, who is on singing Dr. Doctor with Carmine on drums. Joe is also doing Too Hot to Handle, so Joe's on two songs on here. As you mentioned before, Stephen Pearcy doing Shoot Shoot. Was there anybody, Michael, that you wanted to get on here that was unavailable, that couldn't do it for whatever reason?
I'm not sure. I mean, we had a list of people. I mean, it's not really so much what I wanted to be on there. It's just more like we are building something. We don't know what we're doing. What is there? It's like that. It's really because in the end of the day, there is so much out there. He would have to make about 100 albums. It was just like, what can we do now? And so Michael Voss and my lawyer, they did all the work to get in touch with them. I mean, I did the thing, like Dee Snider, Joey Tempest was always on my list, but it was like at the end of the day, always Michael Voss is the one that makes the connection. Jolyn Turner was always, has been on the past two albums, and then Biff did an outrageous performance on This Kids. I mean, I'm so happy with what he did, and unbelievable. And of course, Axl Rose, Love to Love, he's going to make the song a hit. And then Jeff Scott, always fantastic. And then there was basically, and Stephen, and basically there was a three particular. Like Eric, he came out of nowhere because I didn't know about him. So I had to Gronwell. I had to ask, I don't know what he sounds like. So that I heard it on YouTube, and I said, fantastic. I mean, I heard him doing a cover of 18 years.
18 in Life, a Skid Row song. He was in Skid Row. He was in Skid Row for a couple of years until recently. Yeah.
And when I heard Mother Mary, I looked at my partner and we went like, wow, he was so good. I was so happy. He's actually singing on my new MSG album too, so he's a great singer, fantastic. And so basically then out of nowhere came Kai Hansen. I have always, past record companies always mentioned Halloween, people from like singers, etc., etc. And I had a couple of them on my past records. Michael Schenker records, but Kai Hansen, people keep asking me what happened to his guitar playing, because I didn't even know he was a guitar player. Somebody mentioned him for Rock Bottom, and I said, well, let me hear it, and I heard it on YouTube. I went, fantastic, and he did an unbelievable job. But I didn't think of him as a guitar player. I didn't know he was playing. I don't know what he's doing on guitar, but vocally, very, very good. And especially being German, I was very amazed. So anyway, it's Adrian Vandenberg. He was always, I mean, he supported a Michael Schenker group in 1980. My first shows, sold-out shows in Hammersmith audience in London. And I know that he was in Whitesnake, and so I kind of with him in particular, I didn't know actually how good he was, but I did see a Whitesnake concert with him playing "Still of the Night," or is that the title of the song?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was amazing the way he played it, but it was a copy, so I wasn't aware of his original stuff. But ironically, I just remember when he was doing his part on Too Hot to Handle, I developed something towards the last 3 years, like going like so all of a sudden I hear him play, and he's doing that thing. Okay. But he did a really good solo, by the way, very, very good. But I just know, so he must be very influenced by me. I mean, he even copied what I, just recently did. He was at the Monsters of Rock. We played Rock Bottom, and I do that on the end of Rock Bottom. So he put that into that solo in Too Hot to Handle. Anyway, funny, but very good. Very good.
I want to. Yeah, it's all amazing. I wanted to ask you really quickly, going back to Axl and Slash. When they recorded this for you in Germany, there was a photo that came out around that time, and a lot of Guns N' Roses fans got really excited because it didn't say exactly what they were doing. And, Guns N' Roses, since they've been back together with Slash, has yet to write and record an entire new song, let alone album. So there were a lot of people that thought that maybe they were in the studio actually finally making a brand new Guns N' Roses song. It turned out they were actually there recording this, these songs for you. But I'm curious, were you physically there? Did you meet and work with Axl and Slash, or was it just something your producer did and you heard it afterwards?
No. Slash came. I came to Frankfurt. He came to Frankfurt. We met at the studio. He hugged me and told me about Axl wanting to sing as well. And I brought my technician, guitar tech, and my amplifier, my guitars. He brought his amplifiers, technicians, and guitars. We put them all into the studio. We were all there, and last moment I went like, wait a minute, what are we doing here? We don't need to do a jam. I already recorded all of my parts, and I left all the gaps for Slash. So to make it all smoother, and then Slash requested to use my amplifier. And then that on top of it, I went like, well, there is no need to treat this as a jam. I have my parts already recorded. I have the gaps for Slash. We're better off if Slash wants to use my amplifier. We would just focus on what Slash is doing, and we just pick the best parts and we fit them in to what goes with what I already did. And that's how we did it. And it worked out well.